Welcome to this lesson. Today we're looking at Third Culture Kids, which is in the unit Society and Family. Okay. Right, so we can see this material on Schoology. We have a quiz to do before we listen. Your instructor should have enabled this. So if you play this audio, they will read what you can read here, so that you can hear how to pronounce these words. And then you need to go and you need to match the bold-faced word with its phrase or its synonym. That's quite straightforward. And again here, match the bold-faced word with the phrase or synonym. Yeah. In the next lesson, you'll listen to a lecture on third culture, and some questions here. Yeah. So this is all about Kaori. Read about her and think, how did this experience affect her? Okay, and anything that we can think about before we start listening will make the listening easier for us. Yeah. Right. Okay. So please do that before we continue. Right, so some skills work first. New words and definitions. Okay, so speakers might use signal words or phrases to introduce new words and definitions. For example, yeah, so culture means culture, that is culture, or culture, which is also called. Okay, so using some of this signal language can tell us that they're going to give us a definition of this new word or this new phrase, yeah, or this new idea. Yeah. This is useful because maybe we don't understand culture, or maybe culture has many different meanings, and the professor is using a specific meaning that we need to fully understand. Yeah. So when we hear this signal language, we need to listen carefully, because what comes after it is a clear definition of that phrase, that word, or it might even be a whole idea. This is also useful language that we can use if we're giving a presentation and if we need to introduce specific vocabulary to our audience. We can also use language like this to help us convey our definition to our audience. Yeah? Can you think of any other language that we can use that signals a definition? Culture is. Yeah, so we don't need that. Culture is By culture, I mean. No? Maybe asking a question, what do I mean by culture? Well, culture is Right, let's listen. We'll listen to this together. Okay, so the first time we listen, he's going to give us 3 new words. Yeah, so let's just listen the first time, write down those 3 words. Nice short audio.
Unit 2B, Anthropology, Third Culture Kids, page 31. Try it out. Third culture kids differ from other kids in many ways. One is environment, that is, where they live. They live in a culture different from their parents' culture. Another difference is their identity. Identity means who they are. Third culture kids see themselves as a mix of at least 2 cultures, not just one. Additionally, they are often very flexible, or able to change how they think and act. Okay, so those are 3 differences.
Okay, so the first word I think we wrote down was environment. The second word, identity. And the third word, flexible. Okay. Now let's listen again. What language does the lecturer use to signal this definition or this synonym? Okay, so let's listen together again.
Unit 2B, Anthropology, Third Culture Kids, page 31. Try it out. Third culture kids differ from other kids in many ways. One is environment, that is, where they live. They live in a culture different from their parents' culture. Another difference is their identity. Identity means who they are. Third culture kids see themselves as a mix of at least two cultures, not just one. Additionally, they are often very flexible or able to change how they think and act. Okay, so those are three differences.
Okay, so environment, that is. Yeah, so they use that is, which signals a definition or synonym. Identity, means, and flexible, or. Yeah. Okay, I want you to listen to one. I want you to listen one more time. We're not going to listen again. Listen to one more time on Schoology. So head over to Schoology, play the audio again, and can you write down the definition that follows the signal language? Okay, so pause this video, head over to Schoology. This is the audio. You can find it on your course page, Third Culture Kids Skills Focus. Come back and we'll check our answers together. Okay. Here are your answers. So environment, so that's the new word, that's the signal language. Where they live, so that's the definition. Identity means who they are. Yeah, who they are. Flexible or able to change how they think or act. Okay, if you just wrote able to change, that's great. If you wrote all of it, very, very good. Yeah? Okay, so we've seen how we can listen carefully for some new words and definitions, and we've identified some signal language that we can use to help us convey those new words and the definitions. Okay, now let's continue. Let's watch the lecture and complete the notes. Okay, we've given you a basic template. Watch the lecture, take some notes, and then we will use these notes to answer these questions. The lecture we can find in our media album, which is on your course page. If you just search for third, you can find it. And this is the file name, Third Culture Kids, 5 minutes, 8 seconds. Okay. Right, so watch the lecture, take some notes, come back when you've finished. We'll look at an example of some notes and then we'll try to answer the questions together. Okay. Okay, so these are my notes. So let's look at them together. The template's slightly different, but it doesn't really matter a large amount. Right, so I've got an arrow backwards, which I used to signal the previous lesson. Okay, so in the previous lesson we looked at culture shock. Yeah. TCK means Third Culture Kids, so a mixture of home and host culture. So the home culture, the culture you have with your parents, which might be an American culture or a Turkish culture. Then you have the host culture. Yeah, so if you're a Turk living in Germany, your home culture will be Turkish, but your host culture will be German. And this TCK is this mixture, this blend of those two cultures, that third culture. My children are very much kind of like fourth culture children, yeah, because at home we actually have two different cultures. We have English and we have a Russian culture, and then our host culture is Turkish. So my children are growing up with this mixture of three different cultures already. Now the example the lecturer gives us, so his family's American, but they lived in Ghana for 7 years. Yeah. Where's Ghana? Let's have a look. Shift myself over here. Ghana, next to the Ivory Coast. Oh dear, it's so slow today. Yeah, so an American family lived here. So there's Ghana, and here we are. Here's Turkey. Yeah. So it's Western Africa. Let's go back to my notes. Yeah, so the children lived in this mixed culture of Ghanaian culture and this American culture. So they had this kind of third culture. So they would celebrate Thanksgiving, and they also enjoyed Ghanese music. Okay, so let's head over to your templates. So positive views on third culture kids. They become interested in and they accept other cultures. They learn to be flexible, they make friends quickly, and they have friends worldwide. And they have excellent communication skills, often in several languages. Yeah. And the example that the lecturer gives is some traditions and some cultures from both of their cultures. Some negative views, they can be unsure of their identity. They don't identify either as American or as Ghanaian. They're often not comfortable with their relatives, maybe because they don't see them very frequently. And they may not have experience with deep, long-lasting friendships. Yes, if they're constantly moving from culture to culture, they might not have this time to establish these long, deep friendships. And he talks about his children. They don't think of themselves as American. They don't think of themselves as Ghanaian. Yeah, so they're kind of this nomad, this nomadic person, this traveller. Yeah. And they don't always share cultural events. So if this family went and lived back in America, he talks about how his children wouldn't fully understand things like baseball. Yeah. And they're most comfortable with other TCKs, with other third culture kids. Right, so those are the notes that I took. They're not beautiful, but they do the job, I think. Yeah. And I can use them, I can understand them, and I use this short language a lot of places. This exclamation mark, which means not, and this up arrow, which means lots of, and this backwards, this left arrow, which means previously. Yeah, so I try to use a lot of these symbols to help me take notes better. Right, so let's head over to the questions. So how long did the lecturer and his family live in Africa? According to my notes, they lived there 7 years. Which two cultures did the speaker's children learn? So Ghanese culture, and American culture. What is a third culture child? Okay, so quite a difficult question, yeah? Third culture child. A child that grows up with a mixture of cultures. A culture at home and a culture in their society. Yeah? So for example, an American culture at home and a Ghanese culture in their society. What are the 4 benefits? Well, I think we've been through those. They're here. And what are the 3 problems? I think we've also been through those here. What example does the speaker give of his children being unsure of their identity? So question 6. My kids don't think of themselves as American. They don't think of themselves as Ghanaian either. Yeah, so they're a bit unsure of their identity. Why can they not feel comfortable with their relatives? They've never really spent much time with them. Yeah. And this is the tape script, which you can find on your Schoology page. When do they feel most comfortable? They're most comfortable when they're with other TCKs. Why can they have problems with long-lasting friendships? Because they know that they'll be leaving the host culture at some time, so they don't invest their time and their energy into their friendships the same way that maybe they would if they knew that they were staying. You know? Right, so quite an interesting lecture that. There's one more thing to do, which is our dictation. So we've got some space here where we can listen and write down exactly what we hear. You can find the dictation on your Schoology page. 3 minutes, 2 seconds. So we're not going to play that here, but play it on your Schoology page, listen and write it down. Pause this video, come back, and I will give you the answers, and then we are finished. Okay? Okay, and here are the answers to your dictation. What exactly do I mean by third culture kids? So that was another source of learning. They're learning about themselves, so they're a little unsure about their identity. That's easy to understand, isn't it? They'll be leaving the host culture at some time. Let's end here. Right, okay, so to recap then, so in today's lesson we've looked at how we can signal a definition for maybe a new word or a new phrase or a new idea. Some useful language that we should try hard to learn, and that we should try hard to use when we're giving presentations, or when we're speaking about something that might be unfamiliar to the person who is listening to us. Yeah? And then we learned about third culture kids, which are becoming more and more common. Lots of children nowadays are living with one culture at home and one culture in their broader society. Okay. Right, if you have any questions, or if you like this video, but you can like this video on YouTube, any questions or any comments, you can leave that comment down below in the YouTube section. Okay. In the next lesson, you might be looking at some test practice with your teacher. Okay, well, bye for now.